Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. India and New Zealand signed 3 agreements, including one on avoiding double taxation. Visiting Prime Minister John Key assures support on securing membership to Nuclear Suppliers Group. French authorities declare Calais refugee camp empty. Jungle burns to ashes and dust in its final hours. Fears grow over fate of hundreds of lone miners. At least 60 people killed and more than 110 injured after heavily armed suicide attackers storm a police academy in the Pakistani city of Quetta. Security forces neutralize all 3 terrorists. Islamic State claims responsibility. China's Xi Jinping tightens his hold on the Communist Party. Officials at the conclave designate the president as the core of the leadership, using title conferred on Mao Zedong. And super team Golden State Warriors humiliated by the San Antonio Spurs on the opening night of the new NBA season. LeBron James helps defending champions Cleveland Cavaliers to thump the New York Knicks. India and New Zealand moved towards closer understanding on the issue of India's membership to the Nuclear Suppliers Group and combating terrorism. Both countries also made headway on economic cooperation and free trade agreement. Bilateral talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting New Zealand counterpart John Key also resulted in addressing defence-related concerns of both the countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Here's more.
India's entry into the Nuclear Suppliers Group featured prominently in the talks between the 2 prime ministers. In the last NSG plenary in Seoul, New Zealand expressed reservations on India's non-NPT status. But after a positive meeting with Modi, the New Zealand Premier said it will constructively engage on India's membership and also work to secure support from other member countries.
We are thankful for New Zealand's support to India joining a reformed UN Security Council as a permanent member. As we make our own contribution to the development efforts of the Pacific Island countries, we will continue to consult closely with New Zealand and to complement and supplement each other's effort. I am also thankful to Prime Minister Key for New Zealand's constructive approach to the consideration of India's membership of the Nuclear Supply Group.
We had a detailed conversation about India's application to become a member of the Nuclear Suppliers Group. I acknowledged the importance to India of it joining the NSG. I also stated that New Zealand would continue to contribute constructively to the process currently underway in the NSG to consider India's membership. New Zealand is committed to working with the NSG members to reach a decision, and as soon as possible.
Terrorism and cross-border terror also figured in the talks. Both countries agreed to cooperate on sharing intelligence and cybersecurity to stop radicalization of youth.
Terrorism remains one of the greatest challenges to global peace and security. Today, the financial, logistical, and information networks of terror span the entire globe. The barriers of geography do not safeguard against the threat of radicalization and terrorism. Nations who believe in humanity need to coordinate their actions and policies to counter this threat.
In trade and business, 3 MOUs were signed to avoid double taxation and ensure safety and standard arrangements in food processing. Another document dealt with increasing cooperation in youth exchange and sports activities. New Zealand supports India's candidature as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. But to create convergence on other issues of cooperation, consultations between foreign ministers and senior officials will be increased. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat to talk about this is former Ambassador, Mr. Shiv Shankar Mukherjee. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining me on the program. You know, in June earlier this year, New Zealand raised questions when India wanted to get into the NSG and, supported China to an extent because they do not want India to be a part of the NSG. The visiting Prime Minister this time around, of course, has gone out and said that New Zealand is going to support India now in its next bid.
Well, I wouldn't really go as far as that. If you read the joint statement carefully, and frankly, I can visualize the two sides poring over each comma and full stop. New Zealand has offered to engage constructively with India on this subject. It has also committed itself to working with others to reach a satisfactory conclusion, blah, blah, blah. Which basically means that, look, we are not yet prepared to unequivocally and unambiguously provide you with our support, because we follow the American lead on this. Our reservations remain, but you're a very friendly country. We want to support you in this, but as of now, we can't really put it down as an unqualified yes. So let's not get carried away, because the language is reading between the lines or even parsing it, it's very clear that they haven't really committed themselves to supporting India
fully.
Well, in any way. This is simply a friendly nation telling you that we are with you, but in this particular instance, we'll have to wait for the American lead, whom we follow. On the question of the UN Security Council, the permanent membership of India, they have, of course, supported that. Frankly, because it's very easy to do so, because it's not going to happen in the short or even the medium-term future. So for a friendly country to express their support for India is a good thing, but it's not as though it really pushes India's case ahead. That will depend on a lot of other factors. The main gain of this visit, I think, and I think that is very important actually, is economic. New Zealand may be a small country, but it is one of the world leaders in agriculture and dairy farming. It is one country that economists say has converted agriculture into an industry in terms of its efficiency. Now, it doesn't sound like headline-grabbing kind of thing, but can you imagine the advantage to the Indian economy if we really, took our agriculture to a level where even 50 to 60% of where New Zealand is in its efficiency at agriculture, it would simply transform India's economy. It is the visit more or less underlines the friendly relations that exist between us. There are, I guess, 20 or 25,000 Indian students studying there. In every way, it is a visit that we should welcome. These visits make the friendly relationship visible and strengthens them in different sectors.
Another aspect of the visit, of course, is the fact that both the nations have, done something as far as their strategic interest in the Asia-Pacific region is concerned.
Quite right. I should have mentioned that. You're absolutely right. New Zealand is a maritime country. It is a factor in our security look at the Indian Ocean, at the Asia, the Pacific Ocean, this whole region and our interests in it. So to that extent, that also, in terms of giving that a fillip, is a welcome thing.
Indeed. Do you think that the media has made too much of the visit, of Key's visit to India, and, the headlines in all the newspapers, all the television channels has been that, New Zealand is supporting India's NSG bid and New Zealand is going to support India's entry into the UNSG as well?
Well, I think on the UNSG, as I mentioned, I mean, it doesn't cost New Zealand anything to express its support. And I'm sure they genuinely mean it as well. But the fact is, as I said, our membership, a permanent membership of the UN Security Council is a very long way to go, if it comes at all,
yes.
Especially with the veto. I think on the other subject, yes, I do think the media has, let's say, allowed the wish become the father of the thought.
Okay. And, before I let you go, Ambassador, as far as the countries itself are concerned, going forward, did you see the kind of vision that was required in both these countries doing business maybe in the near future?
I think so. I think so. New Zealand is, if you look at the indices of doing business, New Zealand ranks among the top in terms of ease of doing business. They have, as I said, in agriculture and related sectors, which are absolutely crucial to India's growth. I mean, we don't have to really look at only the large economies of the world to learn from them. We can learn an immense amount from New Zealand in terms of a sector where 65% of our people are directly affected. So I think there are huge opportunities there. And it may not grab the headlines, but it may be absolutely revolutionary for our economy.
Indeed. All right. We'll have to leave to that, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you very much.
And moving on now, large-scale fires cleared out the last of the people living in the Calais migrant camp in France. It came on the third day of the operations by French authorities to remove the camp's inhabitants and demolish its structures. The fires burning the camp to the ground are a definitive end to the Calais jungle. But what is uncertain is the future of the people who lived here, especially those of several children.
Fire raging through the Calais migrant camps in France. Dozens of makeshift shelters were allegedly torched by disgruntled migrants as they were forced to vacate as demolition teams started tearing their camps down.
Yes, my tent is fired. This jacket have a fracture. My family all is fired. My fever is the headache. He fired.
The Calais migrant camps that have been called jungle have become a wretched symbol of Europe's migrant crisis. France tried to shut it down several times only to be denied by the courts. The area is strategic as it sits some 30 miles across the Eurotunnel to the UK, one of the more desirable countries for refugees in the region. Migrants have long refused to leave the camp, but since the start of the week, French authorities have been busing thousands of people to shelters and centres where they will be able to take asylum.
Notre mission est remplie. Nous avons fait le tour ce matin.
Our mission is accomplished. There are no more migrants inside the camp on the moor. We have already processed over 5,000 people who came through the registration center.
Toute la journée jusqu'à ce soir tant que nous aurons un migrant.
While France says that the area has been cleared of all the migrants, scores of unaccompanied children remain unaccounted for. While close to 1,200 children were either transferred to the UK or sent to the container site, charities say about 100 children remained there without adequate safeguards. In London, demonstrators called on Britain to help children caught up in the camp's demolition.
Not even a plan clearly established that's been shared with anyone as to what will happen to them, because in any other country they would go into some sort of foster care. But I don't believe that 1,000 foster care options have been created or any places for them to live long term.
French authorities say that they have relocated 5,600 migrants already. However, many refugees have refused to be settled in France and have run away to their chances on the streets of Calais. Many are still clinging on to hope that they will make it to Britain. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. Xi Jinping becomes core leader of China Communist Party, bestows new title on the president, putting him in a more powerful position before the 2017 Congress. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, at least 61 police cadets were killed and 117 injured in an attack on a police training academy in Quetta, Pakistan on Monday night. Security forces shot dead all 3 militants involved in the attack. Islamic State terrorists claimed responsibility. Here's a report.
A savage attack on a police training center in Quetta in the Balochistan province of Pakistan
left over 60 people dead. Most of the victims were police trainees. 3 terrorists wearing suicide bomb vests entered the training facility late on Monday, taking many trainees hostage. All 3 were killed in an operation that lasted nearly 5 hours.
हमें पता चल गया कि यहाँ recruits जो हैं उन्हें hostage किया गया है.
We came to know that the recruits were being held hostage here. There were 3 terrorists inside and all these 3 were suicide bombers. And they were talking to and were getting operating instructions from Afghanistan.
मुतल्लिक बातचीत हो रही है वो अफगानिस्तान से हो रही है.
While Islamic State terrorists claimed responsibility, Pakistani officials blamed another Sunni extremist group, the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, for the attack. Funerals were held for the victims with Pakistan's Army Chief General Rahil Sharif in attendance.
It is a sad occasion, a sad day for the entire Pakistan. Another sad and painful incident took place last night in Quetta. As a result, precious lives were lost. A large number of people were martyred.
Security was tightened in the area and an emergency declared in all government hospitals. The recent attacks in the region have raised fears of more such strikes.
Who are these foreign forces eating up our country like white ants? Now it is the responsibility of our government to unveil them. We should also be aware of whose hands we are allowing to play with us.
Monday night's assault was the deadliest in Pakistan since a suicide bomber killed 70 people in an attack on mourners gathered at a hospital in Quetta in August. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in a major boost for Chinese President Xi Jinping, the Communist Party gave him the title of core leader on Thursday, putting him on par with past strongmen like Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. Xi's new core status was declared during a 4-day closed-door meeting of the party's Central Committee, including generals, state industry heads and provincial chiefs. The title marks a significant strengthening of Xi's position ahead of a key party congress next year, at which a new standing committee, the pinnacle of power in China, will be constituted. The once every 5 years congress will be held in the second half of 2017, and Xi will be looking to stack the standing committee with as many of his own people as possible. Since assuming office almost 4 years ago, Xi has rapidly consolidated power, including spearheading economic reforms and appointing himself commander-in-chief of the military. He has also launched the most thorough anti-corruption campaign in decades, gaining wide popularity among Chinese. Well, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a roundup of all the other international news of the week in Globe Watch.
At least 26 children were killed in airstrikes by either Syrian or Russian warplanes in a village in Syria's rebel-held Idlib province. The UN Children's Agency UNICEF said 6 teachers were also killed. The Syrian Civil Defense Rescue Workers Network said on its Facebook account that the raids hit a residential area and a school in Has village on Wednesday. A report on Syrian state TV quoted a military source as saying a number of militants had been killed when their positions were targeted in Has, but made no mention of a school. Moscow has said that Russian and Syrian warplanes have not conducted any airstrikes on the city of Aleppo for the last 7 days and are upholding a moratorium on bombing. But the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported there were airstrikes afterwards against the opposition-controlled district of Sheikh Said. A humanitarian pause declared by Damascus and Moscow ran out last week. Russia has urged the United Nations to do more to facilitate the evacuation of the injured from the battered city. The US has for the first time abstained from voting against an annual UN resolution calling for an end to its economic embargo against Cuba. The US ambassador said the historic decision reflected the new policy of engagement over isolation. Diplomatic ties were restored last year, but Republican-controlled Congress opposes lifting the long-standing embargo. The vote passed overwhelmingly with the support of 191 countries. Only Israel abstained alongside the US. The UN General Assembly has voted to approve the resolution every year since 1992, and the US has always strongly opposed it. The Philippines president has said he wants the US troops to leave the country, possibly within 2 years. Speaking while on a state visit to Japan, he also called for an independent foreign policy. Under a current defense pact, the US maintains troops at 5 military bases in the Philippines. Since taking office, the Philippines president has strongly emphasized a pivot away from the US towards China. He reiterated the possibility of cancelling current agreements with the US as well as his desire to be closer to China. Last week, while visiting Beijing, he declared his country's separation from the US, though he said later he did not mean a complete severing of ties. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has said his rival Hillary Clinton's foreign policy plan in Syria would trigger World War III. He also said the US should focus on defeating the Islamic State rather than removing Syria's president. Clinton has proposed a no-fly zone over Syria. The top US military chief has said that it could spell conflict with Russian jets in the region. The Clinton campaign accused Trump of playing to Americans' fears. Trump also attacked Republicans for not uniting behind his candidacy.
Well, let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with all the sports news you might have missed this week in Sports Action. LeBron James notched up a triple-double as the Cleveland Cavaliers launched the defense of their National Basketball Association crown with a 117-88 blowout of the New York Knicks on Tuesday. Kyrie Irving top scored with 29 points, but NBA Finals MVP James stole the show with 19 points, 11 rebounds and 14 assists on a night when the Cavs were formally presented with their 2015-16 championship rings. James was de facto master of ceremonies before the tip-off as the Cavs hoisted the championship banner from their epic 2015-16 season. Kawhi Leonard inspired the San Antonio Spurs with 35 points as the Golden State Warriors' much-hyped super team crashed to a season-opening 129-100 thrashing on Tuesday. A packed house at Oakland's Oracle Arena had arrived hoping to see new signee Kevin Durant take his place amongst the most potent offense in the NBA. But while Durant enjoyed a solid enough scoring league debut, with 27 points, the Warriors were comprehensively outplayed by a Spurs side who looked sharper at almost every department. Juan Mata struck to win a tight Manchester derby as United knocked out EFL Cup holders City to reach the quarter-finals. The Spaniard pounced to drive low into the corner from Zlatan Ibrahimovic's pullback as United set up a home tie with West Ham. Paul Pogba had hit the post moments earlier as the game came alive in the second period, following a first half in which neither of the bitter rivals managed a shot on target. City boss Pep Guardiola made 9 changes to his side, who are now 6 games without a win in all competitions, his worst run as manager. Vladimir Klitschko said he wants to fight British heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua in March or April. A planned December bout fell through because the fighters ran out of time, said Klitschko's manager Bernd Boente. The former world champion Klitschko told the media that it will be the biggest heavyweight fight for years. Promoter Eddie Hearn initially blamed confusion over the titles on offer and a minor injury to Ukrainian Klitschko for the failure to arrange a December date. The Malaysian Grand Prix could leave Formula One when its contract ends in 2018 because of falling ticket sales and competition from other venues. The race at the Sepang International Circuit has been a fixture on the F1 calendar every year since 1999. Razlan Rosali, the chief executive of the circuit, said Sepang, which can hold 120,000 fans, drew just 45,000 to the 2016 race on October 2nd. Malaysian Sports Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said competition from other Asian venues was also taking its toll. And finally, for the 11th year, Halloween is being celebrated at the Tivoli amusement park in central Copenhagen, with a record amount of pumpkins on display and zombies on the loose. This year, Tivoli is decorated with over 20,000 pumpkins, 2,500 bales of straw and an array of ghosts, scarecrows, spiders, cats and other Halloween creatures. Visitors can also play a virtual reality mobile game in which they must capture zombies on the loose at the Tivoli. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from Copenhagen. Happy Halloween.